Hi, Jennifer. Ross here. Can you hear me okay? I take it you
Yeah,
can. Okay,
yeah, I
awesome.
can hear well. Hi,
Thanks for coming.
you're welcome.
Hi, Jennifer. It's Mirta.
I don't know. I try.
The world of Zoom, you never
I know. It's
Well, welcome.
nice to put a face with your name. I've heard good things from Annalise about you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Mirta, this is Ashley, and I'm ready to go whenever you are, just to let you know.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. I think we still have a few more people that need to join us, and we have a couple more minutes too. But thank you. Ashley, if we're all good to go, I think I'm gonna get us going. Are we on eScribe also?
Yes, we are.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I call the Public Works Committee to order. Today is February 24th, and we continue to meet virtually. I would ask that we put that information, there it is. Thank you so much. If you are joining us via Zoom and would like to provide public comment, please use the raise and lower hand feature to signal that you would like to provide public comment, and we will let you in. If you're participating by phone, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to mute and unmute yourself. Please know you can always provide public comment on a specific item agenda. You can call and leave a voice message for the entire council at 552-6012, and you can always email City Council at council@ci.missoula.mt.us. And with that, if we could do roll call, please, Ashley, for council member attendance.
Anderson. Becerra.
Present.
Contos.
Here.
Harp.
Present.
Hess.
Present.
Jones.
Oh, present.
Merritt.
Present.
Ramos.
Present.
Cheryl.
Present.
Vasika.
Present.
Von Lossberg.
Present.
West.
Present.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. I know we have the commissioners in attendance, and I am not, if you want, you can take this opportunity to take attendance if that's procedurally how you need to do it. If not, I can just move us along the agenda.
Move us along, Merita. We're pretty laid back here.
Okay, great. So next we have approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes from the 27th and then from the 3rd of this month. Are there any changes to the minutes? Okay, I don't see any hands up, so those will stand approved and will be on our consent agenda. Public comment. Is there anyone who would like to provide public comment on the agenda or other? I see two people in attendance, but please raise your hand if you would like to provide comment now or in one of the items later. Okay. So next on our agenda is item number 1, and that is a proposal to rename the Higgins Avenue Bridge to Bear Tracks Bridge. And just a little bit of background on this before I turn it over to Commissioner Strohmeyer. We have seen this item before. We now have a name for renaming the current Higgins Avenue Bridge. We will hear from tribes representatives about the name and the significance of taking this action. And this is an informational only item, but I would like us to think about it and think about how we can support, if that's how council feels about it, how we can support this, this action. So with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Strohmeyer.
Thanks, Chairwoman Becerra. Thanks for having us again. As As you just heard, this is a follow-up to a conversation that we all had a couple months ago. And at that point, where we introduced the concept of renaming and rededicating the Higgins Avenue Bridge, along with the completion of the construction of that bridge, and bringing that proposal forward to the Montana Transportation Commission. Coming out of that Public Works Committee meeting, there was a request that we reconvene with all of you at a later date once the tribe had selected a proposed name for the bridge, and that is exactly why we are here today. And I'm honored to be joined by CSKT Chairwoman Shelley Fyant, along with, and I don't know whether he's one of these numbers out here that I'm not seeing a face yet, Thompson, but I believe Tony Inkashola, the director of the Celis Kalispa Culture Committee, is with us today, along with Thompson Smith, whose title I typically screw up, but I think he's the Tribal History and Ethnology or Geography Projects coordinator for the Culture Committee. And anyway, just by way of introduction again, as we are sitting virtually in our homes or in an office here in the Missoula Valley, are in the Aboriginal homelands of the Bitterroot Salish people. Yet so often in our community, the places that are named are named in a way that would not lend themselves to any recognition of the long and deep and rich history and continuing presence of the Salish people and the native peoples who call this place home. So by looking at this opportunity of the reconstruction of the Higgins Avenue Bridge, it seemed like an opportune time, particularly with an eye towards the significance of the bridge itself and earlier examples of that bridge and events that took place near the bridge, to bring in a different angle, a different view of what this place means, and do so through naming of that piece of significant public infrastructure. And that's why we're here today. As Merita suggested, coming out of today's meeting, I would make the ask of the city of Missoula to join Missoula County in support of this proposal that will be taken before the Transportation Commission. And I think that could be accomplished in a couple of different ways, either via a resolution or via a letter of support that we would attach to our submittal packet to the commission. The next commission date where this would be taken up would be in April. We would be needing to submit our formal proposal by, I believe, March 10th. So we'd be looking for a letter of support or some indication of support by March 10th. So with that, and without burning up valuable time here, I would like to turn it over to Chairwoman Fyant, if you would like to say a few words, and then share the opportunity with also Tony Inkashola and Thompson Smith.
Thank you, Commissioner Strohmeyer, and thank you, Missoula City Council, for this opportunity. You know, we were approached by about this last year, and, you know, we've been working through the process. Thompson and Tony have done a lot of research up until this very moment, consulting with elders on the exact name and spelling and history of this proposed name. And so the only thing I wanted to say is we really appreciate the relationship that we have with both governments. We don't enjoy that with all of our surrounding governments. So we really value the relationship that we have and the opportunity to sit at the table today. So that's all I'm going to say. I'll turn it over to Tony and Thompson. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman Fyant.
Tony, I think you're muted.
That's when I do my best work. Well, first of all, I want to thank all of you, each and every one of you, for allowing us the time and allow us the opportunity to do what we're doing here today. But first of all, I'd like to say that it's been a long time. We've come a long ways as different nationalities, different people to this country. And we all know that it took many people, it took many leaders to build the country that we love so much. It takes so many different, I guess, trails, roads, I guess, to reach and get to a point. As a native, as having history in this area, where my ancestors lived, it's always going to be home. It feels good to be in this, always be in this area. You know, I take them with me everywhere I go, following their footprints and their tracks. I even take them with me to the Grizz games when I go out there to the stadium. And they're all right there, you know, where the people used to live, used to bury, the Bitterroot. Place names has so much meaning to you know, for all the people, different people. You know, to us, our place names, it's not only just a name, it's a story. It's history. It's our way of life. So, you know, for instance, we've got signs, other signs in Missoula, you know, the place of the big little bull trout, the place of the little big bull trout. You know, there's so many different places that just in the name explains so much for it. And I wanted to thank you so much for this opportunity, for this coming together as a people to share a little bit of history, not only among ourselves, but with our communities. It's a long time coming for things like this to happen, to heal, to bring people together, to be one, to be what this country was meant to be one people. We have so many different views. We have so many different interests. We have so many different values. But then on the other hand, it's all the same. We all want the same thing. And that is peace, a place to bring up our families, a place to live, a place to build a future. And we look back and that, you know, I always tell my people that, you know, we're here for a short period of time. What we do here is not for ourselves, it's always for the next generation. It's for our children, our grandchildren, and hope that we could leave them something that as good as our parents or grandparents, our ancestors left us. Everything we have is a gift. Our life is a gift. Our homes are a gift. Our families are especially a gift. Our special gifts are children. And someday, through leaders like you and other people, our future generations will see those very things that we hoped and dreamed for all of our lives. So it's an honor that, you know, a lot of people say, well, history is history. You know, that's in the past. But to me, you can't build a future without history, without a past. Because we learn from the past, we understand a lot more about the future from our past. So building a future from the past makes us all stronger, makes us all understand in the place that we love so much. And I want to thank you for this great opportunity. I always leave the technical stuff to my chief, Thompson Smith.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your words.
You're welcome. So with that, I'll turn to Tom and have Tom, you know, throughout the years, I've had the opportunity for the last 45 years or so to work with traditional elders and gather their stories, their information. And this is what part of that result, this result is part of all of that. And as Tom might not tell you, but as Tom was hitchhiking through the reservation, he was ambushed and captured, and he's been here ever since. And we put him to work. And so he's gathered all of this information. Over thousands of hours of audio, of stories, of history. And we said, let's grab that guy hitchhiking. Doesn't look like he's very busy. So we grabbed him, told him, put this to good use, put it together, all of our story. And that's where Tom comes from. So I want you to welcome Tom and have him explain a little bit how we got to this point. Tom?
Dum-dums. Thank you, Tony. Listening to Tony, I hear so many echoes of the people that you'll be hearing a little bit more about here in the few minutes I'll take of your time. But first of all, just thank you. I want to echo the thanks that Chairwoman Fayant and that Tony expressed to you. Thanks for this consultation and for this outreach, for this opportunity. I think this is going to be something great for everyone in this community. I hope you feel the same way. And I have a few pictures I want to share here, so I'm going to click on share screen. I hope this thing works. I have an old computer, so if things crash and I go away, just ask Tony some questions. Okay. Okay, can everybody see that PowerPoint? Okay. And let's see if that works. Is that showing up?
Yes.
Okay. So I thought this is a great picture to start with, taking on the bridge that we're proposing today to be renamed Bear Tracks Bridge. This was taken back in the 90s by Tony Inkashola. It shows the Flathead War Dance Chief, John Peter Paul, and one of the esteemed elders, Oshani Kemmel, one of the great beaters and hide workers of the tribes and cultural leaders, and fluent in both Salish and Kootenai. But that celebratory spirit that they are just so exuberantly expressing there is exactly how I think a lot of people are feeling about this renaming. And the first thing I would suggest is a good thing to kind of grasp some of what Tony was expressing, is that this place sits right in the heart of the territories of the Sedlish and Kutlispe, Salish and Kalispel or Pondere people. And this is a map of the overall Aboriginal territories that largely echoes the maps that are in other sources, such as the Smithsonian Handbook of North American Indians. And this sign or map is of the Missoula Valley itself. And again, it really conveys through these place names the richness of this cultural landscape for the Salish and Kalispel people, past, present, and future. And the woman that's in the largest picture on this sign, Sophie Moise Shana, she, now the county commissioners have done the honor of naming the main public hearing room in the county courthouse after her. And a version of this map is up on the wall there. But it's also in a sign out at Fort Missoula Regional Park. But many of the names on this sign reach right back to the creation stories. And we won't go into those today. There's not much snow left on the ground out there. And the elders say we're only to tell these stories in wintertime. But it is a measure of the depth of that connection to the land, that many of these names go back to the time when the land was prepared for the human beings yet to come. And so when we think of the last couple hundred years, beginning with the arrival of Lewis and Clark, depicted in this masterpiece by Charlie Russell that hangs in the Montana legislature, that really is only the most recent little snippet of this vast thousands of years of tribal relationship with this place. And this, in this painting, the people are meeting, the Salish people are meeting Lewis and Clark at the place known in English as Ross's Hole. And the head chief at that time, as recorded in Lewis and Clark's journals, was a man named Cherokees, 3 Eagles. And his sub-chief, one of his sub-chiefs, was the first Suitis Simcha, and that means grizzly bear tracks. That's where the bear tracks name comes from. And the bear tracks family, down through the Vanderbergs, you'll see how that's connected, have served as sub-chiefs under a succession of Salish head chiefs. And they have helped carry out the policy that was really set in place by 3 Eagles in that meeting. When the scouts spotted Lewis and Clark and his party approaching, and they had to come back with the news to the head chief, and he and his sub-chiefs had to decide whether this party posed a threat to the people and should be attacked by the warriors. And he decided not, and he welcomed them into camp and showered them with gifts. And from that time forward, set forth a policy that's been very consistent in tribal history of friendship with non-Indians, but also a firm, resolute stance, support for tribal sovereignty, tribal rights, for mutual respect. And in many ways, this name is carrying that tradition forward. So this was his son, the next Suiti Simcha, or grizzly bear tracks, known in English as Alexander Bear Tracks, born about 1790, died about in the 1880s, somewhere in the 1880s. And this is a portrait drawn by the artist and translator who accompanied Isaac Stevens when he was exploring the area and then returning to conduct the Hellgate Treaty negotiations in 1855. And Sohan wrote that decision is written in every line of this man's countenance, and how highly respected he was in the community and also by others who came to know him. He was also a great medicine man, a powerful medicine man who helped the people survive throughout that time. That's explained a bit more in the background paper that will be shared with you in the near future. During the Hellgate Treaty negotiations, he played a key role. Again, sub-chief to the head chief, Chief Victor, who was head of the whole federation of Salish, Upper Kalispel, and Kootenai people. And so Grizzly Bear Tracks served under him. And his words are even recorded in the negotiations. This is a page from the official field transcripts, available, by the way, through the University of Wisconsin. Amazing to retrieve these documents online this way. But this is from Friday, July 13th, 1855. And you can see right there on the screen, Bear Tracks said, and a whole page of his remarks in which he backed up the chief in refusing to relinquish and surrender the Bitterroot Valley and move up to what's now the Flathead Reservation. And that was the major point of contention in the treaty. Again, they asserted their friendship and welcoming of the non-Indians, but also were not going to surrender their homeland. Chief Victor was succeeded by Chief Charlo, who sits in the center of this picture, Cherokees, which means Claude the little grizzly bear. And one of his two chiefs was Louis Vanderburg, sitting there on the right, our right, Chief Charlo's left, known as Irkut, faraway grizzly. And he married the daughter of Bear Tracts, a woman who is known as Mary Bear Tract. And so that's why all the Vanderburgs that came after them, their kids, their grandkids, great grandkids, all the way down to the present day, have been known as Vanderburgs, but also as Bear Tracts. And so it's a name that has no higher stature in all of Salish history. Louis Vanderburg stuck with Chief Charlo right up until the forced removal in October 1891. And as they approached Higgins Bridge, this is a picture in the 1870s, and in 1891, it was even in worse shape because it had been washed out in the early 1880s and had yet to be reconstructed. But as they approached this bridge, this is where Louis Vanderburg led one of the three major parties of the Salish through the Missoula area. They approached this site, and some of them may have crossed the rickety thing that spanned the river at that time, but it's believed that most of the people forded the river, something the Salish were renowned at doing, highly skilled. And this is a picture, actually, the only known picture of Salish people fording. It's probably the Bitter River, but one of the rivers during the forced removal in 1891. And the Vanderburgs that then came after Louis Vanderburg have also been of tremendous stature in the Salish community. This is one of the children of Louis Vanderburg and Mary Bear Tracts, Victor Vanderburg, who lived from 1868 to 1939 and who also was a sub-chief under Chief Charlo's successor, his son, Martin Charlo. And then Victor's son was Jerome Vanderburg, one of his sons, and he married Agnes Vanderburg, two of the most highly esteemed cultural teachers in the community. In fact, Agnes ran a cultural camp up Valley Creek that was internationally renowned. And then their kids have continued to be cultural leaders in the community. Ineas Vanderburg on the left, who is a longtime member of the Elders Advisory Council, and who, by the way, was a veteran who was a paratrooper in World War II. And on the right, Lucy Vanderburg, who was the head of the People's Center for many years. Before that was the Salish specialist for the Culture Committee and is now a member of the Elders Advisory Council. And her brother, Joe, who passed away, unfortunately, about a year ago, and who is a really important member of the Elders Advisory Council, and who stood right at Higgins Bridge with Lucy and related to her the stories he'd heard from the elders about the crossing of the river during the removal. And this carries on to today. So that's Malia Vanderburg learning from Joe. She's one of the really accomplished young Salish language apprentices who's really gaining some mastery of the Salish language. So I hope that gives you some sense of why this is such an appropriate name and really something that hopefully everyone can embrace and celebrate. I should maybe add in closing that one of the senior translator and elder for the Culture Committee, Shirley Trahan, suggested putting some grizzly bear tracks into the walkway along the bridge when this thing nears completion. Excuse me. So, Lemdom Specia, that means thank you, everyone. Shehoy, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. And as Tony and Kashola said, you know, the past is an important piece of how we move forward. So I just would like to express my full support of this. I think that the renaming and rededication is long overdue. It's the right thing to do. And we have a great opportunity with the bridge reconstruction to do just that. So I will wholeheartedly support it and move this forward in any way that that we need to. I hope my colleagues will too. And I see several hands up, so I will go. Gwen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for bringing this. I'm really excited about it. I love the name. I love the alliteration. I think that's great. And I had read the supporting documentation before today. Really enjoyed learning about the history. And I guess I feel like this is very important, and I'm very supportive of the name, but also I'd like to think a little bit further down the road. I feel like it would be wonderful to include somewhere adjacent to the bridge some plaques that have a lot of this history. And Mr. Incashola, your comments today were beautiful. And I think not only should we have the history, but I loved your comments on the significance and the importance of doing this on so many levels. And so I'm just going to put that out there. I'm so supportive. I'm not quite sure what next steps are in terms of down the road. Eventually, how do we memorialize this information and have it so that it's communicated to the community? But maybe we can be thinking on that, and where do we find the money? How do we do it? All of those brass tacks. And Mr. Strohmeyer, maybe you have thoughts on that, but I'm happy to champion that and to push on that. So thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fayant and Mr. Incashola and Mr. Smith. Thanks for all of the wonderful information. And my last request is, I'm hoping that the administrative clerk, when she does the minutes, or he does the minutes, could we have it verbatim, Mr. Incashola's comments, because I think he just said it right there, and we should just use that perhaps. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you. Next, I see Brian.
Thanks. I want to echo everything Gwen just said, and on behalf of council, Gwen serves as council vice president and I serve as council president. I want to first off just say thank you, Chairwoman Fayant, and Mr. Smith and Mr. Incashola for joining us, honoring us with your time. We're grateful for that, with the history, with the presentation. This absolutely has my full support as well, and I will work with our Public Works Chair, Ms. Becerra, to make sure that we get whatever we can get in, whatever would be the most impactful in support in advance of that transportation committee meeting. And lastly, I want to thank the commissioners for joining us as well. And in particular, I want to thank Commissioner Strohmeyer for all his efforts here. This was one of the most meaningful meetings I've attended in my 8 years on council, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Brian. Jordan.
Yeah, thanks. I want to echo the thanks and support that others have given. Chairwoman Fayant and everyone that from the tribes that have helped us deepen this relationship. It's a relationship that's extremely important to the city of Missoula, and I'm very grateful for that relationship, and I think that will continue to bear fruit in the future. Again, I'm really supportive. I really enjoyed the presentation today and the background materials posted to the agenda, and I completely agree with Gwen that that some sort of public education or interpretive display in Caris Park or near the bridge would be really important. Thanks to everyone for advancing this. Mirta, do you need a motion or is this informational?
It's informational for now, but this will give us a good direction on how to signal our support of it when the time comes. So thank you.
Thanks.
And I want to quickly maybe request that Dave Strohmeyer, maybe we can work with the Heritage Interpretive Plan to see if maybe we can follow up on Ms. Jones' idea to have this memorialized in that way also. So we'll work on that for sure, or I'll pester you. Next, we have Julie Merritt.
Thanks. I'm grateful for Chairwoman Fayant, Mr. Incashola, and Mr. Smith for taking the time to come today and bring this to us. And Dave Strohmeyer, thank you for bringing this item up. You have instigated something that I think is really great and really important. So I'm in full support, and just I was going to be in support of it no matter what, but I love the name. So thank you.
Great. Heather.
Thanks, Martha. Thank you all for coming and presenting today. I think we really do appreciate it. And Mr. Incashola, your quote about this is a very special place that brings us peace, the place to bring up our children, the place to live, and it's a place to build the future. And all that is based upon honoring the past. And I think renaming the Haynes Avenue Bridge to Bear Tracks Bridge does precisely that. So thank you all for all of your efforts in bringing something new to Missoula when we could really use it, which really is just a page out of history. So thank you all.
Heather, next I have Jesse.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's no secret I'm not typically in favor of renaming things. I don't think that it's best for the culture to kind of try and rewrite history. I'm not a fan of cancel culture at all. But to me, this is not what this is at all. And after listening to Tony, I mean, I think it's safe to say that out of all of our council witnesses, and no offense to them, Tony's one of the few that I was disappointed when he stopped talking. I could have listened to him for days or weeks, just such a wealth of information. And I just think this is a really cool project, and I'd like to support Gwen's idea too, that if we can memorialize this in some way, I think that would be fantastic. So I'm greatly in support of this, and would be happy to do anything I can to help, because I just think it's an amazing project. And thank you so much to the speakers for so much history, and I love the name as well. So thank you all.
Great. Thank you, Jesse. Amber.
Thanks. I don't think I can add a whole lot more than everyone else has said, but I just want to express my thanks to everyone in getting this done and bringing it forward. That was a great presentation and a great history lesson for me. And I love Gwen's idea of continuing that as part of the culture of, being downtown and using this bridge and honoring the place that it is. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Amber. Heidi.
Thank you. I also wholeheartedly support this. I think to really convey the meaning of the name, I think it would be really helpful to have some context that is shareable with the public. And I also just like the idea that was mentioned of actually having bear tracks be incorporated in the actual design of the bridge. And I know that it's a feat of massive proportion to try and get features added to bridges, because we've been working on this one for a long time already. But if there is potential to do something similar to the bitterroot flower emblems that are on the Orange Street Bridge, I think that would be beautiful to give some physical manifestation of the name to this. So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Next I have Josh and then Dave.
Thanks a lot, Mirta. And I just want to say thanks to Mr. Nkashola, Mr. Smith, and Chairwoman Fayant, and to you, the City Council, for having this discussion. I just had this one little brief piece to add that the names of our public places are pieces of public education. And we tell our story and our history through those names, and the children who grow up here learn that history in part from the context within which they live. I'm very appreciative that we're going to add to that story and make it more complete and begin the process of reckoning that so desperately needs to happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Josh. And Commissioner Strohmeyer.
Well, just to wrap up, thanks so much, Missoula City Council and Public Works Committee, for allowing us to kind of parachute in today and talk about this. And as some of you know, I served a little bit of time on the Missoula City Council, and it's refreshing at times like this to know that Public Works can actually provide some level of inspiration at times. It's the rare day that is the case, but I think this is one of those days. As Commissioner Slotnick alluded to, naming this bridge, rededicating this bridge as the Bear Tracks Bridge is an act of education. It's also an act of recognition and an act of redemption, I would argue. And I'm extremely honored to be joined today by Chairwoman Fayant, Director Nkashola, and Thompson Smith. Thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to working with you, Mierta, and President von Lossberg as far as next steps of preparing any support materials necessary to come before the Transportation Commission. And I could not agree more that simply we would be falling short of the mark if our work simply ended with renaming the bridge. And I think more needs to be done, and that does include some of what a number of you have alluded to today in terms of interpretation of this place, of the history of this place, and of this piece of infrastructure. And so I look forward to working with the council on how we might accomplish that in the days and months to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Strohmeyer, for everything that you have done to get us to this place. Thank you to everyone who has joined us today. Mr. Nkashola, Chairwoman Fayant, and Mr. Thompson, for all you have given us today. It's truly appreciated, and we will continue to work on how we best to signal our support. We'll work with the commissioners, and hope that the Transportation Commission will accept our request. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Be safe.
You as well. Okay, we ran a little longer on that item, but how could we not? So we will move quickly to our next item on the agenda. And that is, we're going shopping. Looks like we have several purchases, and Scott Caldwell is here to present on that. Go ahead, Scott.
Hello, Scott Caldwell, Fleet Manager for the City of Missoula. And I have 4 purchases for you guys today. The first one is I'd ask this committee and the council to approve the purchase of 4 Jeep Cherokees from Yellowstone County Motors in Livingston, Montana. Each one of those purchases for $27,643 for a total of $110,572. This is a cooperative purchase with the state of Montana. It's line item P7.8 or line 44, and it's a mid-sized 4-door SUV. The primary use of this vehicle is going to be the police department administration. Over the years, we've seen an increase in number of police officers and administrative people in the police department, and they're running short on vehicles. This is a new request. It was approved in the budget for FY21. The budget for these cars was $40,000 a piece for $160,000 total. So this comes in under budget. Some of the remaining budget will be used to install decals, unit numbers, radios, and update our diagnostic software for the fleet maintenance department as well. So that would be the first one. Do you want to go through all of them, Marta, or do you want me to just stop on one?
Why don't we do them separately just to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to comment on each one of them. So we would need a motion for the first purchase. Sandra.
Thanks. I'm happy that these are coming in under budget, and I'm also happy to make the recommended motion.
Great. So we have a motion for the first item. Let's take public comment. I see Jordan Hansen in the audience. Not sure what item on our agenda you are here to participate in, but please let us know. So seeing none, if we could take a roll call vote, please, Ashley.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Okay, that's 12 yeses.
Great. So that will go on our consent agenda and we'll move to the next purchase.
I would move that this committee and the council approve the purchase of one F-550 Super Duty truck from National Auto Fleet Group in Watsonville, California for $48,443.59. This purchase is to replace the fleet maintenance service truck with the addition of compost and some of the other bigger fleets. We've seen a definite increase in needing a bigger service truck, plus our service truck is definitely wore out. This truck is also approved on the CIP and replacement program for FY21. This will replace a 1997 Chevy one-ton truck, and that's unit 707. 707 will be removed from the fleet and sold in auction. The purchase of this truck comes in under budget by $26,566. A bulk of the remaining funds will be used to purchase and install a utility box, a crane support, and a new crane. Also a work light, strobe light, air compressor, and generator.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Julie.
I'd be happy to make the recommended motion, but Scott, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So you said it came in $26,000 under budget. Had we budgeted for those items that you just said you were going to add on to this truck, or maybe explain that a little bit more?
So yeah, when I purchase a vehicle, most of the time I have to purchase a vehicle just bare bones. So this truck actually comes with a cab and no box on it whatsoever. So when I budget for that, I budgeted $75,000 for that vehicle because I knew I was going to have to install a box and a crane and those types of things. So the initial purchase comes in under budget, but I also know that later on I'm going to have to upfit that vehicle. So that's why you see those coming in under budget of $26,000 under budget.
Okay, thanks. I would make the recommended motion.
Great. Thanks, Julie. Any further questions? Okay, and now I know Jordan is with the Missoulians, so seeing no public comment, Ashley, could we take a roll call vote, please?
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
Jones.
You already got me.
Okay, perfect. My screen froze, so I just want to make sure I got everybody.
You skipped me.
Think you need West.
West. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
West. All right, thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, so I believe that's unanimous and can go on our consent agenda as well. Scott, take it away with the next one.
Okay, I'd ask that this committee and the council approve the purchase of one 2020 Ford Super Duty F-250 four-wheel drive pickup from National Auto Fleet Group in Watsonville, California for $35,521.50. This is also approved on the CIP and the Vehicle Replacement and Growth Program. Purchase comes in under budget by $9,478. Some of the remaining funds will be used to equip the equipment with, or the vehicle with, 2 toolboxes, a headache rack, and work lights. There's going to be quite a bit left in that budget afterwards. This purchase replaces another truck in the fleet, Unit 588. This is a primary response unit for any kind of traffic lights out or anything like that. Unit 588 is a 2009 GMC Sierra. This truck will stay in the fleet. It'll actually probably stay in Com Shop, and it'll replace Unit 590, which is a 2004 Chevy K10 pickup truck, which is a 2-wheel drive pickup truck. That pickup truck will be offered to other departments. I would imagine it's probably going to go to Parks Department, because Parks Department has quite a few older vehicles. And then whatever vehicle that replaces in Parks Department will be sold at auction. Again, the equipment budget for this purchase was $45,000. We're coming in under budget for this as well.
Great, thanks, Scott. Jesse.
I'll be happy to make the recommended motion.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions from council? And no public comments. So if we could get a roll call vote on this item too, Ashley, that'd be great.
I am still having trouble with my eScribe. It just crashed on me.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to get
Okay.
it back up and running here.
Okay, so Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra is a yes. Contos.
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Ramos.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Vasika.
Yes.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
And West.
Yes.
Great. So that's unanimous. Will be on our consent agenda. I bet you're all thinking I should have done all these purchases together, huh? Okay, Scott, maybe let's go ahead and do the last one.
All right. I move that this committee and the council approve the purchase of one 2021 F-350 Super Duty cab and chassis pickup truck. This is another one of those pickup trucks that just comes as a cab and a Blake frame behind it, to National Auto Fleet Group of Watsonville, California for $37,114.74. This purchase was also approved in the CIP as part of the Vehicle Growth and Replacement Program. This vehicle comes in under budget by $32,887, but we have to put a dump box on this vehicle plus a plow on this vehicle as well. So the bulk of the remaining will be used to do that. One add-on to that, the financial implications of this is that this is for cemetery. This vehicle purchase is for cemetery. Cemetery has funds available to them through their CARES fund that they will pay for this truck out of, but this has to come through council anyways. So this is a replacement vehicle. It'll take the place of Unit 612. 612 is a 2001 Dodge 3500 dump truck snowplow unit that's been used in cemetery for the last 15 years. Unit 612 will be sold at auction after the new vehicle shows up. Another add-on would be that Unit 612 I actually put together 15 years ago as a mechanic. So it was actually a government surplus when we bought it, and then we put a dump box on it and a snowplow on it, so it is well used.
Some memories there, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks, Scott. So Julie.
I'll make the recommended motion.
Great, thank you. We have a motion, and Stacy.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just really quick, Scott. I noticed that there seems to be a mix of purchases from dealers within the state and outside of the state. Is it literally where we can get the best deal is the number one? Could we've gotten this truck for $500 more from a Montana based?
So yeah, it is the best deal. If they're that close, I will most likely go with a Montana-based dealer. But most of these purchases are upwards of $3,000 to $4,000, if not more difference. And so if we could get a local dealer that would be closer, I might discuss that opportunity. But what I do is I wait for the state bids to come out. So the state sends out their bid specs for vehicles. They solicit the whole state, and all these different dealers then come in with their lowest price for that vehicle. And then once that state bid comes in, then I start comparing it to what I can do through Sourcewell, or this is Watsonville, or this is National Auto Fleet Group, which used to be Sourcewell, which is just a national buying program. And in this case, the National Auto Fleet Group is coming in quite a bit lower than any of the state bids.
I appreciate that due diligence on, trying to support local, but yet being a good fiduciary responsibility we have with our taxpayer dollars. Quick follow-up, Madam Chair, if I'm allowed. A couple of these have been, you say, will be sold at auctions. The proceeds of the sale of that, does that go back into fleet maintenance, or does it go to the department in which it was sold from?
So if it's a public works entity, that money goes back into the general fund. If it is a revenue based, so like cemetery, when they buy things out of the CARES fund, by law, that money has to go back into their budget to be able to go back into purchasing vehicles. So if like water department or sewer department were to sell anything, then that money has to go back into their department. But anything for public works just goes back into general fund.
Thanks for that question, Stacy. I think it's important to know that. Thanks, Scott. We have a motion on the floor and no public to provide public comment. Ashley, can you take a roll call vote? I'm happy to do it.
I'm ready. I had IT help me and it's back up, so I can do it. Anderson?
Yes.
Becerra?
Yes.
Contos?
Yes.
Harp?
Yes.
Hess? Jones?
Yes.
Merritt?
Yes.
Ramos?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Vasika?
Yes.
Von Lossberg?
Yes.
West?
Yes.
That is 11 yeses. Great. So that too will go on our consent agenda. And thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have several sales of Missoula water property. Ross is going to be presenting the three of them.
Thank you, Mirta. Yeah, my name is Ross Mollenhauer. I'm the interim Public Works Deputy Director of the Utilities. And I've got 3 sale agreements for surplus Missoula water properties to discuss with you all today, and hopefully have you approve and authorize the mayor to sign agreements with these individuals. I'm gonna, if it's okay with you, Mirta, I'm gonna kind of talk about how we got here and why we're here today, and then go into specifics on each one. So let's see. Okay, so the big picture, Missoula Water, you know, when the city condemned Mountain Water, it came with a lot of properties, and some of those properties were being used and some have been largely vacant. So some of these properties that we're looking at selling here today are properties that we inherited with that condemnation suit that the utility is not really using. And I guess Dennis Bowman, my predecessor in this position, you know, when they went out to look for these purchase of the Broadway buildings, they thought that this would be a good time to unload some of these unused properties that the city is also sitting on. So that's kind of how we got here today. These properties, you know, we have to do maintenance on them, and if we're not using them, then we feel that a better use of the properties would be to sell them, better for our ratepayers in the long term. So that's kind of why we're here. How we got here is we went through an RFQ process with realtors and selected 2 realtors from Lambros last fall. Those are Annalise Haydahl and Jennifer Barnard. Jennifer is with us today if we have any realtor questions. We went through an appraisal process on each of these properties with Kemble, Cosina and Company. And the appraisers and the realtors have really recommended for each of these properties that these properties are so small that they think the best and highest use is assemblage. So usually combining them with an adjacent property. So that's kind of how we got here today. I'm happy to take any questions about that part of it, or I can dive into the specifics on the 3 individual parcels.
I think we should just go to the 3 parcels, and if they have questions specific to those, we can take.
Sure. So the first one is 1236 Dickens. This is a property on the north side. I'm happy to put a map up if anybody would like to see it. It's a 30-foot by 40-foot property, so about the size of Missoula Water's conference room. I just kind of pasted out just as I was sitting here to see.
If you have that map, can we put it up, Ross? Thank you.
Yep. Just a second. Here's the property location. This is Dickens Street and Defoe Street. This is an alley running in between. So this property, like I said, the realtors recommended that assemblage with the adjacent landowners was probably the best and most practical use for it. As you can see, it does have access to Dickens Street, but it does not have an adjacent water main. So a little history on this parcel. This used to be a well building for the city, or for Mountain Water. It was abandoned. They stopped using the well in 2006, and then the well was abandoned, and the well house was taken down maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But the city really has the utility has no plans for this property in the future, and selling it really makes the most sense right now. So we went through, I guess Jennifer can probably explain these details better, but it was listed on MLS. And we asked our realtors to approach the adjacent landowners at the same time that it was listed at MLS. And so adjacent landowners were given a hand-delivered letter letting them know that this was for sale. And the market was hot. On all 3 of these properties, we received offers very quickly. And we felt that it made sense to sell at the fair market value, that the appraised value to the adjacent landowner. So Mark Price, the person in this agreement, is the property directly to the south on this map, this property right here. So with that, I guess I'm opening it up to questions, unless Jennifer, feel free to correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. I'm definitely not a realtor, and appreciate any input you have as well, Jennifer.
I think that all of that's representative of the discussions that we had. These properties were made available or known to the public because of an article or an interview that Dennis had given, and so in the Independent. And so there was a lot of public awareness, I guess, of the properties before they came to market. We did have a lot of people reach out to us asking about them, but we were not able to give information about them until we had a signed listing contract, and we were within 24 hours of it going live into the MLS. And so it was listed in the MLS. As Ross said, we did, at the direction of the seller, hand deliver a letter as a courtesy to the adjacent property owner to let them know that the property was going to be for sale.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer, for that. Couple of hands up. Brian and then Julie.
Thanks. I'm happy to put this one, the motion for this one on the floor, if that works for you. And if I could just comment briefly.
Yep, that works.
Thanks. I really appreciate hearing about the process and the notification of the adjacent property owners and such. That all seems like a really good process to me, and I'm grateful for it. By way of background, there's actually an interesting history that I won't go into around the well that was abandoned at this site. That's part of the sort of condemnation lore. But on a more practical point, I have fielded calls from the property owner there over the years about like weeds and stuff on the property. And to be clear, the utility has always gotten around. I think they've contracted with someone to take care of it, but to I think the point that Ross was making, these have carried a maintenance burden, whether it be weeds or some other aspect that is, not insignificant. So there's a number of fronts. There's a cost associated with that. There's also a nuisance, to the adjoining property owners. And so I am glad on many fronts that I won't be getting any more calls about this. And I think it's a good process. So thanks.
Thank you. Julie.
Hi, we had a constituent from Ward 6 who was a little disconcerted about, he had been watching diligently for this property to come up on the MLS. And I think that it came and went so quickly that he didn't even see it come up there, even though he was watching for it. And I think that's just the nature of the market right now. So I do think that the process that was followed, and Jennifer, thank you very much for responding to those concerns and giving us all the details that you guys had tracked of exactly when things got posted on the MLS and the multiple competing offers that were given on each of these properties. I guess my question, and I don't even know if there's anyone on here who can answer this, but it sounds to me like a 30 by 40 foot piece of property is not really something that's even big enough to build something else on. Can anyone confirm that? Like, you couldn't build a house on that piece of property, could you?
That's my understanding too, that with setbacks and the fact that there's no adjacent water main, that, the size of it's not really practical without.
And I suppose you could build a shed on it and meet all the setbacks associated with it, but not a living structure because,
Okay, thank you. Do we need a motion on this, Mirta?
We do. Brian put the motion on the floor, so thank you. Sandra.
Thanks. I was just going to chime in exactly what Julie said. There was a constituent that was concerned that this wasn't put up available to the public. And I wanted to thank Ross and Jennifer for getting back to us on that. And I just wanted to, what Jennifer was saying, let's see here. It looks like this property was put on the market on the 10th of February at 11:56 a.m. and it was changed to pending on the 11th at 4:55 p.m. So in a day, it came and went. So I just wanted to let everyone know that how quickly it did. It was available to the public, but it got taken like that. So I just wanted to let everyone know that.
Great.
Thank you,
Thanks. John.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you. I think that was very nice of you to contact the adjacent owner first. That'd most likely be the person that would want to purchase that. What was the asking price on that piece?
That's the shocking part, is $2,000 is how it was appraised at.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
And Heidi.
So I have a general question. I think if that just has to do with properties being sold that are in enterprise funds, and somehow I seem to recall that these properties have to be sold at a fair market value, rather than, for example, someone lowering the cost and selling it to an affordable housing developer or whatever. I realize it doesn't apply to this parcel. And so my question is just whether I'm correct or misremembering that these have to be sold at fair market value. So if someone can answer that, that'd be great.
I think probably Ryan Sudbury could answer that better, but or maybe even Aaron Pehan, but from my conversations with both of them, I think you are correct, Heidi, that that there's significant risk to the city if they tried to sell off enterprise fund asset to support a general fund purpose like that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks for all the questions. And we have a motion on the floor, no public to provide comment. So let's go ahead and take a roll call vote, please, Ashley.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
If you said Cheryl, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I was a yes too.
Okay. Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
That's 11 yeses.
Great, thank you. So that will go on our consent agenda. And Ross, go ahead with the next one.
Okay. All right, so the next one is what I have on the map in front of you. It's 247 Paddy Creek Drive. Again, this was a well location. I should mention something about the last one. Not that it matters now, you've already voted, but the water rights for the last one were transferred to a different well after we abandoned those wells. And on this case, this is another well site. We are in the process of transferring these water rights, so we won't be losing these water rights either. But we want to move forward with selling this property. We've already abandoned and removed the well house and abandoned the wells. This well system over here was kind of connected to the tanks at Crestline Drive on Ninkpata Park, and those tanks were failing, and so the decision was made to change how water is routed in the Fairviews neighborhood and not require tanks there anymore. So those tanks went away, and after those tanks went away, then we didn't need these wells here anymore. So this whole area these wells can be abandoned or have been abandoned, and now this property is surplus and we'd like to sell it. So we went through an appraisal process. The appraisal for this one came back in at 180,000. We reached out to the adjacent landowners as well as listing it on MLS. And again, the offers came back very quickly, and we would propose that we sign an agreement with one of the adjacent landowners for this property as well.
Ross, just to correct you, we did not reach out to adjacent landowners on this one, just because, we weren't instructed to, but they were aware of the sale because of the article and had reached out through their representation regarding it.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks. Heather.
Thanks, Marta. Jennifer, I'm wondering if you could give us a few more details on this property. This one, if I read it correctly, on the GIS website is 12,000 square feet, though substantially larger than the other two that we're considering today. And when I think about our lot sizes in Missoula and how difficult it is to find land to build upon, is this a lot that's going to be developable by the adjacent homeowner? Or even if it wasn't purchased by this owner, would it be connected to the sewer and water and all other utilities as a separate parcel?
Heather, so it's my understanding that because of the unique shape of the lot, so the overall square footage is there that would sound as if it could be developed because of overall square footage, but because of the way that, you know, it's shaped, that and then also there's an issue of access once, you know, if you could even build on it, and that would be with the setbacks. And I don't know, Ross, if you had the exhibit that Annalise sent in that had the overlay with the measurements and whatnot, but so, you know, it was our conclusion that this lot also would be extremely difficult to develop because the zoning causes an issue here too. It would, you know, without getting a zoning variance of some type, it's the R5.4. And so just a single family dwelling would be allowed on it. And so we did not recommend that assemblage was its highest and best use, but did not feel that the likeliness that it could be developed according to the zoning. So it was priced the way, you know, it had a lot more value to it than the other two lots did. Does that answer your question, Heather?
Yep, it I think just speaks to the difficulties we have with zoning in this community if we want to build affordable houses. Thank you, Jennifer.
Any other questions? Anyone wants to make the motion, or that someone did already? Julie.
So I'm sorry, you probably already said this. Did this piece get sold to one of the neighbors or did it get sold to someone separate?
Yes, to an adjacent neighbor. I'm not sure. Jennifer, do you remember which neighbor? Which one of
Yep.
these two?
It's the one that's furthest from Park Street. So the one to the right. Yep. That particular homeowner is under contract and they have no plans to develop it at all. I think that they will probably request a boundary line adjustment and for assemblage with their current lot, but that's what we've been told. I don't know, but
okay, thanks.
Makes sense to do a boundary line relocation to have it all under one lot, I guess. Thank you. We still need a motion, I think.
I'd be happy to make the recommended motion.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and still no public to provide comments. So let's go ahead and do a roll call vote. Ashley, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Okay, 11 yeses.
Great. Thank you. So that will go on our consent agenda. And we have one more. Ross.
Yeah, the last one is known as Tract 5 Hillview Heights. It's this parcel on the map here. And this one, again, is a very small property. I think it's slightly bigger than Dickens, but less in size than the Paddy Creek one. And it's got no access and no sewer main. And it'd be, again, there's no access. It'd be very hard for this to develop in any other way other than assemblage with one of the adjacent landowners. So on this one, the realtors did reach out to the adjacent landowners with letters. It went on MLS, and one of the agreement that we have in front of you today is for sale to one of the adjacent landowners for $2,600. Is that right, Jennifer?
Yes, it was listed at 2,500. There were competing bids between neighbors, and they were neighborly about it. They discussed things with one another, but so $100 over list price.
And that matched the appraisal value?
The appraised value was 2,500.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. Stacy.
Thanks so much. I was looking at the map trying to figure out, had it not been an adjacent homeowner, what would they do with that? So given it's Ward 5, I'm happy to make the motion for this and glad that it worked out between neighbors, and hopefully they continue to be friendly neighbors after this.
I should say that I've received word too that the neighbor who's buying it has been the one who's done a lot of the maintenance work on it over the years. So that's kind of fitting, it seems like.
Oh, absolutely.
Great. Well, thanks. Thank you, Stacy. So we have that motion on the floor. Any other questions? Sandra.
Sorry, I might have missed it. Which property owner was the winner?
2327. Yep, Ross, your cursor's on it right there.
Great, thanks.
Okay, we still don't have public to provide comment on this item, so we will go ahead and get a roll call vote, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Masika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
That is 11 yeses.
Great, thanks, Ashley. So that too will go on our consent agenda. And thank you, Ross, for bringing this forward. And thank you, Jennifer, for your attendance and answering all our questions. Appreciate it. And we have no other business. So with that, we would be adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Meredith. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Thanks, Ashley and Katie.
Thank you.